Hello there everyone, this is going to be taking care of quails 101. If you want quail, whether it be for their meat or their eggs, this video should tell you everything you need to know to get started. We're going to start with one of the most important things, which is spacing. Quail need around 1 square foot per quail to make it so that there's no violence or any stress going on. This cage is a pretty good example of what that space should look like. You want to have no more than 2 quails per square foot. This cage down here is a bad example of what that looks like. You can see a little bit of violence happen to that one back there, a little bit of blood on its eye, and you can see there's like no space whatsoever for them to move around. So this is exactly what you don't want to do. And I will be moving these quails. I just have them here temporarily. They will be going into these lower cages. So no, I am not going to keep them like this, especially knowing that you shouldn't. Thing that you want to keep in mind when keeping quail is hygiene. As you can see, this cage is already quite dirty, and I'm going to have to take a brush and clean all of that poop out of there, because otherwise they can get feet infections. So when you build your cage, you don't just want to make it secure, you want to make it in a way that is very easy to clean so that they will not get sick and you can keep them healthy. On that subject, something that will keep them both happy and healthy is adding a tray with sand. That sand, they will bathe in it, and it can help them fight off parasites in their wings. It will just make them happy overall, which will lower fighting. It is a very, very good thing to add to your cages to keep your birds happy and clean. As for the cages themselves, what you want to do for the floor, this mesh is actually too small, and that's why it gets so dirty so easily. You want to get one that's one size smaller than this. This is 1/2 inch. You want to get the one that's called 1/4 inch. I couldn't find that at my stores. One with this is too small. If you can find a 1/4 inch, definitely make the bottom of the floor with that, and you're gonna be able to keep their feet a lot cleaner without having to brush it nearly as often as I do with this one. I want to talk a little bit about jumbo quail. Jumbo quail will be a little bit more expensive since they are bigger, they eat more, but they are very much worth it if what you want them to raise is meat. They are way meatier than the other birds, have very good temperaments, and their care is pretty much the exact same as the normal quail. Deciding on the type of quail that you want, you only have to consider a couple of factors. Do you want eggs, do you want meat, or do you want profitability? This video is not going to be based on profitability. That's a whole different topic, but I do want to briefly talk about it. If you get something like the browns, which are way more common, then you're going to get a lot of eggs and quite a bit more sales. And there's also jumbo brown. Meanwhile, something like this, like the tuxedos, which lay the same type of eggs, you can still get the egg sales, but people don't want to buy them, at least from me, as much, because it's harder to tell which one's a male and which one's female. And the jumbos are always going to be an overall win, because even though they do lay a few less eggs, they lay bigger eggs and can be used for a lot more meat than your standard brown. We've talked about their cage requirements, we've talked about the type of quail that you should look into getting. Now the most important thing is always going to be feed. When it comes to quails, they eat a lot more protein than some other birds because of how quickly they grow. But even once they are adults, when you can actually lower the amount of protein that they eat, you're still going to need something around 20% protein to get them to lay. So I recommend something like the Game Bird Layer Crumbles. This works really well for me. Quails are of age and you start feeding them a layer food like that layer crumble, you can expect eggs pretty much daily. At first they're going to be fairly small, and then they'll start getting bigger and bigger until they reach a size like this, and sometimes you're going to be able to get some double yolked ones like this. And if you're eating them rather than selling them, this is amazing because it's 2 eggs in one. Not so much for the bird, but pretty good for us. Now if you want to raise chicks, which is what you would have to do if you're interested in raising quails for meat rather than eggs, you're going to have to feed them a lot more protein. That would be covered by something like the Game Bird 30% protein starter. This is what I have always raised my chicks on, and it works really well. I'm not going to go over chick guide in this video because that's a whole separate video. These guys require a whole different care guide and are way more complicated than normal quail. Some of the most basic requirements: how much space they need to keep the cage clean, what type of quail you might want to get depending on your goal, So there's only really one more basic thing that you need to know about quail, and that is that they need a set light cycle. I need to get a light for these ones down here, but that one up there is set to go from 6 a.m. to, I believe, 10 p.m. And what that does is it gives them 14 hours of sunlight, and they need minimum 12 hours of sunlight every single day, 24/7, the same schedule, because quails need consistency. These birds are very, very fidgety. If anything changes in their environment, they can stop laying, especially the light. The only reason that quails stop laying during winter isn't because of the cold, it's because of the shorter daylight hours. So if you want your quails to be laying, set up a light on a timer, keep that stable throughout the whole year. The same goes for their feed. Make a feeder that can hold a lot of feed like this and always have it refilled so that they never run out of feed. If quails run out of food, they go into a survival mode where they think that they're going to starve, and they stop laying so that they can save energy. So again, to summarize all of our points, keep your cage clean, have enough space, don't keep them huddled up together like this. This will stress them out. Stress will make them kill each other, it'll make them stop laying eggs. Feed them high protein, wisely the species that you will need depending on your goals. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and very simple care guide on what you need to know to keep quail. If you're interested in more videos like this, check out the next couple videos that I'm going to make about how profitable they are and how to raise chicks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.